So I'm delighted today to be sitting with Jaideep, who runs Tech Data in APJ. Tech Data, obviously very famous as a distributor on the global stage, but relatively new to the Asian market, but expanding quickly. So we're looking to find out a lot more about Tech Data's plans and business inside Asia. Jaideep, it's wonderful to be sitting with you. I'm going to start with the opening question, which is, how is lockdown going for you, for the company, and for you personally? How's the experience been?
Well, first of all, thanks, Steve, for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. And hello to everyone. Yeah, as most of us know, this period has been quite challenging for all of us and industry in general. But we are doing quite well. From a perspective that we have been in this lockdown for last several months, I think our teams have done a fantastic job. The channel has adjusted very well. And I'm proud to say that I think this shows the resilience of the IT channel and the ecosystem we work in, that it responded and reacted to this challenge very well. And I think it defines our purpose, right? This pandemic defined that IT matters to the world, and IT can actually be the enabler to help us find new ways of working. And I think all of us would appreciate that, our teams and the ecosystem and the channel partners did that. It was challenging, but I'm pretty proud of the way we reacted and took our teams 100% to work from home environment, 100% remote. And also, challenges like our young leaders who had never worked and led teams from home rose to the challenge and really did well. So pretty happy with our progress.
And Jaideep, why don't you introduce yourself personally a little bit? I think you're living in Singapore now, but you moved there fairly recently. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I moved to Singapore last year in July of 2019. And prior to that, I've been living most of my life in Hong Kong. I was there for 24 years in a great city. And I moved here as I took on the role to lead Tech Data's expansion and investments into this region. And it's been fantastic coming to Singapore. It's a fantastic country, city, and things have been very smooth, and pretty excited to be here, actually.
And let's now talk about Tech Data in APJ. Obviously, you were with the Avnet business around the advanced solutions business, which was the first acquisition. And more recently, you bolted on the acquisition of Innovix. So why don't you talk us through about your footprint now in APJ?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. So Tech Data came into APAC via an acquisition of Avnet's technology solutions business, which was primarily an advanced solutions business centered around enabling partners into data center through hardware, software storage, deep technical skills, and selling with the partners with a deep focus on technology expertise and centers of excellence. And our footprint was primarily in countries like India, Australia, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, not so much in Hong Kong, and not so much in China. And with the acquisition of Innovix, we are bearing to fruit our strategy of increasing our portfolio, expanding our solutions, and becoming more end-to-end. And not only have we expanded our geographical footprint, but we have deepened our expertise in those countries. As an example, we are significantly present now in Hong Kong with our Innovix acquisitions. Tech Data had 12,000 partners in the advanced solutions business, and with Innovix coming in, we are now 20,000 partners. We expand our presence in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia in a big way. So I think Tech Data is different, bigger, more end-to-end, a deeper footprint in APAC than it was, a year before. And by the way, we only started here in 2017 as a real Tech Data strategy. But I'm pretty pleased that we are investing here and expanding our footprint.
And then one obvious question is, Innovix was very strong, but in the three countries, as you talked about, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore. So that means you have a broadline business in those three countries, but not outside those three countries. So are you going to try and expand the broadline business in other countries? And are you going to try and do that organically? Are you going to the vendors and saying, please let us operate as a new distributor? Or do you have to wait for an acquisition? How's that going to play out?
So, Steve, that's a great question. I think the way I would put it in front of you is this. With Innovix, we get solid expertise in the endpoint solutions business, which is what you call a broad, PC printers, volume business. And that expertise is something that is truly valuable to us. And we're going to take the best of that expertise and regionalize that. And what I mean by regionalization is that I think now we have a seat at the table with our vendor partners who are in the endpoint solutions business, which Tech Data did not have it. Let's say HPI, let's say Lenovo, even for that matter, Dell EMC, where we were only in the enterprise space. Now Dell EMC becomes a much more end-to-end for us. So I think what we plan to do is bring that expertise of Innovix, regionalize it, and look at the opportunities where vendors see a gap and where we can bring value to them and expand our offerings to these vendors. Now, obviously, Tech Data strategy is always organic and inorganic. And I think we made our move with an inorganic activity with Innovix. And now we take that asset and make organic moves out of that. So I think that's the way we look at expanding our offerings to our channel.
And the tough question, I guess, is distribution is all about operations and logistics and systems. So presumably you're going to merge the Innovix and Avnet systems into the global Tech Data platform. And how long will that kind of project take? It's normally a difficult exercise.
Yeah. So, Steve, that's a great question. I think integration is a key priority for us. But at the same time, we want to make sure that it is not disruptive and it is business as usual when it comes to our customers and vendors. We are very, very focused on making sure that our ability to serve them on a day-to-day basis doesn't get impacted while we are integrating common functions, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, Tech Data is a part of Apollo. And as we became Apollo, I think you heard about that. We announced that we'll be investing $750 million in digital transformation, which is centered around systems to build a distributor of the future. And Innovix and Tech Data will go on that journey together, but it's not happening like day one and in a few months. It's a long journey. Our effort here is really to look at three stakeholders: vendors, customers, and our employees, to make their life easier, to make doing business more efficiently, and be able to deliver platforms that support various consumption models for IT. So I think we're going to go along that journey in a very careful, but in a very definite way, keeping in mind the disruption is minimum for our partners.
One trend which we've seen around the world this year as a result of the pandemic is the rush towards work at home, study at home, even healthcare at home, has driven a huge amount of business in the run rate volume business. But the advanced solutions business has been more difficult as many on-premise data center type projects got delayed. Would you agree with that? Is that something you've seen? And obviously what we're interested in is then will those projects that have been delayed start coming back? And when will they start coming back? So I wonder if you could talk about the on-premise server storage market.
Sure, Steve. No, you made a great point, and I agree with you. In fact, I must commend that Canalys does give us a good insight into what's happening in the market as well. So while you have a base of information, I would just add on to it and maybe validate that. So obviously, work from home has really rejuvenated the endpoint solutions business across the globe. And we have seen that in our Innovix business, and we have seen that in the business globally. And that's fantastic. And it does really bode well for that category. And I believe that that will continue in the near future as well. From the advanced solutions point of view, I think one thing is very clear, Stephen, and you agree with me there, is that we are in the world of hybrid data centers, hybrid cloud environment. So on-prem business is not going away. Let me put it that way, right? It might be delayed because of the basic physical, difficulties of implementing, delivering services, in the data centers. But it's not something that is going away. It is delayed, absolutely yes. When do we see that coming back? I think 2021, we should see the activity coming back. By the way, within that category, there were certain segments which kept spending, and we saw that in our business in the last 6 to 9 months. The government was spending, the banking and financial institutions were spending, certain segments were spending, like IT services, as they scaled up their remote environment. It had an impact on their digitization and the on-prem demand as well. But yeah, there were certain countries and segments that were challenged. We believe they will come back. I think there will be absolute demand in the modern data center, which will be software defined, which will be consumption-led in the hybrid environment. So I'm very optimistic 2021 we'll see the demand come back as we normalize out of the COVID situation.
And maybe we can go a little bit further. One of the, we always talk about APJ, but of course it's not one region. There's huge disparity in terms of wealth and digital technology adoption across the different countries. So I imagine you've seen a very different pattern in the more wealthy countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, ANZ as well, of course, Japan, where you don't really operate, but the advanced countries, Korea, versus the emerging countries, which I imagine have been harder hit. I don't know if you could talk to a little bit about the impact of the pandemic and on the different countries.
You're absolutely right, Steve. I think your question hits right at the heart. The emerging economies have been hit hard for the sheer disruption that has happened in the economic activity. And also, I must acknowledge that the channel ecosystem in the emerging countries is nascent and is developing, and it has been hit hard due to the financial disruption that has happened around it. So obviously, if you look at Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, the impact was less severe in terms of, if you look at the channel ecosystem, and it was pretty hard in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and even to that extent, somewhat in India. So I acknowledge that, and I think there is a clear difference here. To your earlier question, whether there is a different trend in these countries about moving to cloud or digital transformation, there is no clear signal yet, I think. But if there was one indicator, what's our cloud business looking like when I say CSP, hyperscaler business? It is growing in excess of 50% across every country, right? So I think that we expect to continue. And has the digital transformation accelerated that trend? Absolutely, yes. Are the people in emerging countries more aware of the cloud journey they need to take? Absolutely, yes. Are they prepared? Probably not. And that is where our role is so important to enable that channel in various countries to be able to pick on the new trend and go to the promise that the cloud offers in a hybrid environment.
One of the themes of this conference, you've already mentioned it very briefly, we'll hear many of the leading vendors, whether it's Dell, HPE, Lenovo, others, all talking about the consumption model. The vendors think it's a panacea, the great future forward. Some of the channel partners we've spoken to are much more skeptical due to level of maturity of the economies, credit risk, etc. So I'm wondering how quickly you think the consumption model will be adopted in this region.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Steve, and you make valid points and valid questions. The way I look at it is this: our vendors are usually leaders in making a market, whether it comes to technology or creating different routes to market. So I have to give credit to our vendors to be able to think about the future and how they are going to address, the various consumption models of IT, which they invest in producing with future in mind. So I think the things start from there. I think what is the dilemma with the channel and distribution is that we work on very thin margins. And the question is, when do you really invest in this future-looking, models, right? And I'll give you an example. I think tech data, and I'll admit that we have been a bit late in practices like network and security, right? And we thought probably we should have invested ahead of time, right? So I think the question everybody in the channel ecosystem needs to address is, if this thing scales up, are we ready with platforms and with the models to be able to deliver IT that way? So I think I would focus and encourage not only us, but our channel partners to really think about when is the time to start the preparation, so that when if you look at this as a product life cycle, if it scales, would you be able to take advantage of the scale? So that's how I would prepare ourselves.
And you touched on security there. One of the trends we're expecting is this year has all been deploying remote workforces, but also alongside that it's been in a rush. We're expecting a record number of hacks this year, and that to continue next year. And there will be a lot of embarrassing situations for companies that are hacked, but also a big growth now in the security product portfolio. So security seems to be an obvious place to grow.
Oh, absolutely. An obvious place to invest and grow. By the way, I would take the opportunity to say that, combination of tech data and Innovex makes us a leader in the cybersecurity portfolio. So we are here to help our partners and help them grow in this segment where, it is the need for the end user.
Let's think now about the next 12 months. Obviously, this has been an extraordinary year. None of us could have predicted how it worked out. You've managed to make a major acquisition and transform your business during the year. What are you telling your teams? What are your expectations for the next 12 months? Are you optimistic? How do you plan in this scenario?
Yeah, so great question, and most of us are in the planning cycle, and obviously we have grown, our footprint and our portfolio significantly with Innovex, and for us the opportunity is really welcoming 20,000 partners now into the gamut of both the organizations. So if you look at it this way, Tech Data was 12,000. We get access to 8,000 more of Innovex, and Innovex was 8,000. We get access to 12,000 more partners, right? So our biggest opportunity for us is to be able to offer end-to-end to all the 20,000 partners, right? And obviously there are segments. There are large partners, there's SMB, et cetera. But we believe our immediate priority will be to really cross-sell, upsell, and offer our end-to-end to the larger partner base that we now have at our disposal without disrupting, anything during the integration. As we look into 2021, we believe, and we touched upon that, Steve, security will grow within advanced solutions, on-prem, server storage, networking, unified comms will come back, and there will be growth there. On the PC side, we expect, comm to grow That's the prediction. And I'm sure it matches with your research as well, which is fantastic, Canalys research. We also believe that the cloud momentum is only going to accelerate. And I just want to talk about, the success we are seeing in that space. It is tremendous. And I think we are not only adding partners, but also our capabilities in centers of excellence where we can really help partners come on to that journey as well, the cloud journey, which is the hyperscaler environment. Will there be hiccups? Possibly, if there is another wave and things like that. But we remain very cautiously optimistic about 2021. We believe the growth will come back. And all we need to do here is make sure that we are positioning ourselves with our ecosystem to be able to capture that growth for all of us.
Jaideep, it's been wonderful to sit here and to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you again over the next 12 months and at this conference next year, where hopefully we'll all be face to face rather than just by video. So thank you very much for your time, and let's keep in touch.
And Steve, thank you for doing this. I know this has been challenging for Canalys as well to host an event, but I must give you all credit to not backing away and going on with this event and bringing us all together. You're doing a fantastic job, and I hope to see you next year in person and being a part of this excellent forum.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.